Hi, this is Miles from Milestone Investing, and today's subject is really about cash flow management. But before I do that, I want to redefine the term assets and also liabilities. An asset is something that you own or control, and the liability you owe to other people. And the asset that has to have significant value. So if I, for example, bought a £10 calculator, though it has value, the value is not significant enough. Whereas if the instrument was maybe say £4,000, that value would be significant, and therefore that would be considered to be an asset on your balance sheet. Okay, so that's the accounting definition. The savvy investor definition is a little bit different. They say that assets are things that generate an income and put money in your pocket. And they say that liabilities are things that generate an expense and take money out of your pocket. So with that in mind, I want to now show you the cash flow management of poor people, middle class people, and rich people. This is an income statement. It's an income expense statement. Money goes into this area. My expenses goes into this area. And if the income is larger than the expense, then in essence, you have a surplus. If the income is less than the expense, you have a deficit. And this is a balance sheet. Assets on the one side, liabilities on the other. And if your assets, so let's pretend you have a house that's worth 300,000 and you have a mortgage liability of 200,000, then 300 minus 200 will give you a net worth of 100,000. Now this would be your equity in the property. And if that's all you have, then that's your net worth. So now that we've actually explained what we're looking at, let's have a look at the behavior of a poor person. And this is based on belief systems and psychology. Remember this. And what you've learned from your family and your parents and the people around you. So what you do, money comes into your life, and then when you pay on your expenses, money leaves your life. And really, there's nothing left to show for it. So basically, you repeat the pattern next month, and you do the same thing over and over again. The primary focus of people in this mindset is, I must pay my bills. And so because their priority is to pay their bills, that's the first thing they do. And the problem is that most people's bills equal their income. And sometimes it exceeds their income, but that's essentially what they're doing. So what they do is they work to pay their bills, okay? And the bills would be, obviously the first one is income tax, then the bill of their accommodation, then any utility, etc., food, travel, communication, entertainment. And in the case of a poor person, entertainment for them would be a TV, a DVD, and a radio. Then you got clothing, then you got education. And for a poor person, education may be as simple as just buying books. Okay, but essentially what they're doing, nothing hits the balance sheet, and that's their model. So they just basically make money, spend money, make money, spend money, make money, spend money. 20 years later, there's nothing to show for it. The middle class person, what is their spending pattern? Well, money comes into their life from their business or their job, and they basically spend money on their lifestyle. Number two, so money comes out, but they have surplus income over and above their basic expenses. So they go and they buy accounting assets, which are savvy investor liabilities. What does that mean? They'll buy something the accountant will put on the balance sheet as an asset, but generates an expense because you own that asset. And therefore, a savvy investor will call that a liability. What are those things? Well, the home that you live in. Well, the home you live in, when you buy on a mortgage, generates an expense for you. The car you drive generates an expense for you. And anything else you may have that may derive an expense for you would go into the savvy investor's definition of a liability. What do these liabilities do? They generate a second set of expenses. So you had one set of expenses being generated from the income expense statement. You've now got another set of expenses being generated from the balance sheet. These two together are your total expenses. Now, the interesting thing about the middle class person is that if they lose their job, they may be able to cut back on some expenses, but these things start to hurt them. And especially if they're emotionally wedded to their home and their car, this then becomes the anchor that sinks them further and further into debt. Okay, so this is the spending pattern of a middle class person. And their focus is mostly about lifestyle. They just want to look good. They don't want to wait, to save up the money. They want to look good now, and they want to borrow the money to basically have the lifestyle today. That's their focus. And the focus is really keeping up with the Joneses and looking good today. This is the model of a rich person. So let me break this down. Let's follow them by numbers. Number one, a wealthy person, rich person, money comes into their life. And the first thing they do, number two, they put money aside into the asset side of the balance sheet. And this is to purchase assets that go up in value and generate an income while they're waiting for the asset price to go up. So that's what they're doing with this number two. So the second thing they do is they pay themselves first. Once they receive the money, they pay themselves first, put this money into bank accounts, getting ready to purchase assets later on. And then once they've done that, then after that, they spend the rest on their lifestyle. Now, this may be 10%, this may be 20%, but that's essentially what they're doing. The third thing they do, they spend the money and they continue that. So then what happens? Well, they go shopping for assets. These assets generate an income for them. And this income now creates two lines of income. One is worked income. The second is passive income. What do they do with this passive income? They use it to buy more. To number five, they buy more. So then now they go on an accumulation of assets. One funded from number two, and the second one funded from number five. These two together goes to work adding assets to the balance sheet. And so you now have this nice little virtuous cycle where money coming in buys more. The more you have, the bigger this becomes, and it buys more. The more you have, the bigger this becomes, and you buy more. Okay, all being added, supplementing this one here. So these guys, this is what they're doing. Eventually, they're going to hit their targets of their valuation or their target. Let's pretend that their target is, say, to have a net worth of £1 million. So once they've hit their target, they're going to say, okay, I've hit my target now, net worth of £1 million, for example. Once they've done that, then they're going to say, okay, fine, now I've done that, I now want to use some of this passive income to pay for accounting assets, which are savvy investor liabilities. And so they then go and they fund the mortgage to pay for their home. They use that to pay for the car loan on the luxury car, or the lease on the luxury car, or however they want to fund it. And this is basically what they would do. So this, as we already stated earlier, generates an expense for them. And the expense comes out here. So even though they got double expenses, one from the income expense statement, one from the balance sheet, unlike the middle class person, their one has been funded through passive income, whereas a middle class person used his salary to fund his investor liabilities. He used his salary. The rich person uses his assets to fund his liabilities. So why is that distinction useful? It means if he loses his job, this rich person loses his job, the assets continue to pay for the liabilities. He doesn't need to downsize. He doesn't have a problem and he's good to go. If you like this video, click the button below and subscribe. This is Miles from Master Investing. See you on the next one.